Good evening. My name is Mycol Reamer. I'm an MAS graduate student here at the University of Washington, Tacoma. I will be presenting on my thesis topic, that of Tacitus and the use of Libertas and Cupiditas in Tacitus's works, as shown through the eyes of the Boudican Revolt of the first century of the current era. In this revolt, as detailed in both the Annals and the Agricola, we'll be analyzing Libertas as the core concept of freedom and Cupiditas as the core concept of greed. This is their simplistic meanings, and they actually mean a whole lot more, which we will see later in this presentation. So who was Tacitus? Tacitus was a Roman senator turned orator and a historian who lived in the 1st century CE. Over the course of his life, he held many political positions in the Roman Empire, and he used those experiences in the imperial government of Rome to create the intricate stories in his historical writings. The importance of the concepts of Libertas and Cupiditas can be taken directly from the Annals itself, when Tacitus wrote, "History should inspire good deeds and discourage evil ones." It is from this standpoint of literary analysis that we examine Tacitus's use of the concepts of Libertas and Cupiditas, especially in his depiction of Boudica's revolt. We define Libertas as freedom and Cupiditas as greed. Specifically, Libertas is the idea of freedom which can be viewed as a political freedom or a set of virtues based around the idea of the greater good, while Cupiditas, or greed, which are a set of vices or hubris that includes such common themes as treachery, incest, adultery, or just simple monetary greed. So what was Boudica's revolt? Sadly, with a limited time afforded this presentation, I'm afraid this will have to be the 30-second-ish rendition of the revolt. Boudica was the queen of the Celtic kingdom of the Iceni, and after her husband's death, Rome annexed her kingdom, which led to her being publicly beaten, which marked her as a slave, and her daughters raped. She led her people and the neighboring tribe of the Trinovantes in open revolt against Rome's oppression, which caused the destruction of the 3 Roman towns, which were also burned to the ground, along with the destruction of the 9th Hispania Legion. She was defeated by the Roman governor of the province, Suetonius Paulinus, at the Battle of Watling Street, where she took poison rather than be captured by the Roman people. From this, it is evident that the history of Boudica, as told by Tacitus, is one that begins in Libertas. Boudica is shown by Tacitus to be a strong woman who is in possession of the morality that one might associate with freedom, which is the idea of justice and the willingness to defend both her people's individual and political freedoms. She brings her neighboring kingdom of the Trinovantes into the revolt, knowing that they had suffered at the hands of their Roman oppressors, and together they both chose as their first target Camulodunum, whose legionary veterans had abused the native Celtic peoples to slake their own hubris and greed. She is portrayed as a wife and a devoted mother who, when wronged, saw to her people and her family first. She is a warrior and a leader as she assembles an army and leads them in open defiance of Rome, and ultimately destroyed the 3 Roman settlements of Camulodunum, Londinium, which is modern-day Rome, London, and Verulamium, along with 1 Roman legion. She convinced neighboring tribes to come to her cause, all in the name of freedom, or Libertas. So Boudica's revolt may have begun in Libertas, but it ends in Cupiditas. Perhaps she allowed the Cupiditas to come to pass, allowing the pain of her children and her people to consume her, then allowed the idea of vengeance to grow like a root of evil that festered within her on her path. Perhaps she held so much Libertas in her heart that the scales tipped, and this righteous zeal transformed into the darker side of freedom, becoming Cupiditas in that zeal. She exhibited this trait in allowing her bloodlust and thus her greed for revenge to lead her to the evil acts she committed in the name of that revenge. This was evident when Boudica's forces attacked Verulamium, allowing her forces to turn into little more than a mob, attacking and pillaging as they went. Verulamium can be seen as Tacitus showing Boudica as losing her focus. From there, they move into the Battle of Watling Street, so set on vengeance, possibly even blinded by it, that she allows her forces to engage a fully prepared and entrenched Roman legion on their own terms, instead of consolidating her forces and perhaps gathering other tribes to help in securing Britain from Roman rule. Instead, she was so blinded that she allowed her bloodlust against her Roman oppressors to be her downfall. Boudica's story is an important part of history of the British Islands, and Tacitus's writing of the history or story of it is just as important. From this section of Tacitus's works, there is the lesson of the importance in family and in strength of purpose, and the importance of freedom. It also shows how one can allow themselves to be blinded by one's own desires, be they vengeance or their own hubris. it is important to look at this story and not merely see a woman who happened to be a wife or a mother or even a queen, but to look at it, and even with this little bit of irony, where the statue of Boudica and her daughter rests in front of the Parliament building in the city that she burned to the ground, reminding us that it is important to look at Tacitus' story of Boudica and see the strength that one person can wield to change the world in the name of freedom. Thank you.